Alright, guys, it is the end of the decade, and we have a lot of albums throughout the 10 years that we need to talk about. So, I have a list of 10 albums of this decade that I'm going to talk about. They're not necessarily in order, but this is my top or my favorite 10 albums from this year. And let me tell you, it was hard to create. So, without further ado, guys, the first album of this year, or this decade, I should say this decade, is Lorna Shore's Flesh Coffin. This was the first experience that I really had from Tom. So when I first discovered Tom Barber himself, I'm going to get into Lorna Shore, I found him through Chelsea Grin's Dead Rose video. But I was so kind of curious about the person himself. I don't know what caught my attention with him. I think it was just his vocal range and how he just took himself. I actually had to go back and find more songs by him. So he only had one song with Chelsea Grin at that time. So I knew about, or I basically looked him up, and Flesh Coffin came up. And I went through the entire Flesh Coffin album, loving it. His vocal ranges, there's obviously his aggressive vocals and the way he layers them. So we'll have like a section, in like Void, for instance, where he's like, hallelujah, what have you done? He'll be like in his high range, hallelujah, and then in his low ranges, what have you done? And just like that's an example. And obviously, if you know Void, you'll know that part of the song. And just he does it so well, and it's so aggressive, and that really gave me part of loving this album. So Tom was kind of the introduction for me getting into Lorna Shore. Flesh Coffin was such a staple album for me because I just listened to it for so long. I am still listening to this album continuously. Like when they took it, when Lorna Shore, before they released Death Portrait on iTunes, I listen to everything on Apple Music because that's just who I am. Spotify is okay, but I'm an Apple guy. So Apple Music for me, listen, whatever. But they took it off Apple Music, and I was like, bruh, you're telling me only Psalms? I believe it's how you say Psalms is on there, and I like Psalms. I actually listened to Psalms after Flesh Coffin because I wanted more, but Flesh Coffin, in my opinion, as Psalms is good, Flesh Coffin as itself is a banger. So when they took it off, I was pissed. But yeah, so Flesh Coffin was one of the most influential albums in getting me into Tom's creative genre and in his pathway. So I'm very happy I stumbled across that. But that is our first album of this decade. The second album is Reclaimer from Shadow of Intent. I actually discovered them by listening to the song Barren and Breathless Macronism, I think it's called. And it was a single. It was released as a music video on YouTube, and I checked it out, and I was like, this song is heavy as fuck. I was like, dude, like that, dude, new, like that. If you know the riff, you know the riff. And it was just an intense and crazy riff, and it immediately caught my attention. So basically what happened was I thought the song was so good, I actually kept listening to it, and at that point, I wanted to listen to more. So there's only, I believe, 2 singles off that album, which I didn't know the release date of that time. So Barren and Breathless, Macronism, and then Under a Sullen Moon, and I love that song to death. However, it released in 2018. That's a side note, but I had not listened to that song at that point, so I went back to the Reclaimer album after looking at some suggestions or reaction videos, and everyone was like, "Yeah, Reclaimer is bomb," and I'm like, so I'm checking it out, and the top played song was The Return. And let me tell you, The Return was such a crazy freaking theatrical song, I should say, and I had to go to the album and check it out. And I'm telling you, the Taurus implement, I think it's how you say it, is so aggressive. Obviously, The Heretic Prevails is a banger. We Descend is such a great intro to a song or to an album. It's very like theatrical as well. Other songs there's actually a song with Tom on there called I'm choking, but there's multiple songs in that song. I think the entire album for me is just so interesting to play or to listen to. It's actually, I would say, compared to the new album that dropped this year, I feel like it's, I'm not going to say better because they're different albums, and I feel like for that reason, that's why they're both great, but this one's definitely the faster-paced album, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not saying, well, no, what's the freaking new, Mechalody? Wait. I couldn't even tell you the album, I couldn't pronounce, I'm having a hard time pronouncing these names now. Their newest album was a little slower paced. I'm not saying they didn't have their fast songs, but I feel like Reclaimer was definitely a little faster. And for that reason, I want to say I'm not going to say it's better in this video, but I will say that I really did enjoy it, and I went through every song on constant repeat, grinding at the gym. So yeah, and thanks to that album, I've been listening to Shadow of Intent, and now Ben's side projects with, Scumfuck or Scumfuck, I think it's called, yeah. Thanks to that. So yeah, the Reclaimer was a definitely must-need album from this year, or from this decade. Next is a throwback one for me, Get Scared. These boys came out last decade, the previous decade, but I really didn't know them until 2015 when I first heard Sarcasm, which really spiraled into my passion for Get Scared. Unfortunately, now I believe they're kind of calling it off, but we still have their great music to kind of live on. So they've had they've had 5 albums technically, and 4 albums now, because they don't really want to count the one with Joel Rivera, I think his name is, just due to other issues and the fact that there was kind of like a mini break. But they're Dead Days. The Dead Days was supposed to release basically alongside of Ice Nine Kills, Silver Scream, as they were basically releasing music kind of in a very like smaller time scale. Like, they're releasing music kind of back to back, if that makes sense. In 15, they released Demons on the 30th of October, I believe it was, and then Ice Nine Kills was December 5th of Christmas. December that year. And then I know from just the interviews that they released and the whole the production of that song, or the album itself, they were supposed to release that year in 2018, and October 5th was the release date of Silver Screen in 2018. So I believe I think November was their goal, but due to problems in the band, they released it April 2019. And let me tell you, what an album. And I'm kind of upset that they wanted to, I'm not upset at the things that happened, because obviously things had to happen for a reason, but I'll tell you what, the Dead Days, man, banger of an album, so many jams, so many different types of music. The Dead Days itself, the song, is a very happy and kind of uplifting song. The lyrics, though, they're dark as shit. The Dark Side of the Moon, songs like Calling All Crows. Oh, dude, I can't even get into words, but such a powerful album, such a kick-ass album, such a continuation of Demons. Demons had it was a really good album, but Dead Days, man, this is the best album they've released, and this is why I'm so sad that they had to start breaking up now, because they were really getting that stuff, man. It was so emotional. A lot of thought from Nicholas went into this album due to past experiences, so I feel like they really crafted something special. And now that they're kind of breaking up for the time being, if not permanently, it's kind of upsetting to me. But the Dead Days, if you haven't checked it out by Get Scared, oh my gosh, go check it out. Definitely a must listen to for this decade. I keep saying this year, but this decade. Obviously, other stuff from Get Scared is really good too, but for this one in particular, I'm doing 10, so I have to choose one album from these guys. So definitely the Dead Days. Next one is from Wage War. I know in past videos I've kind of a little bit of throwing a little shade towards their new album, and that's because, not that I don't like it, I'm just a little bitter. Because I love Wage War. Their first album, The Blueprints, was heavy. It was literally the blueprints for their band. It was such an intriguing album, lots of emotion. The river being heavy as shit. One of those fat come on, that riff, come on, bro, insane. And then Deadweight came out, such a continuation of Blueprints. Deadweight being the second album they released. Just the album cover itself, the album itself felt so collected. Just intense songs like Disdain was a very rock and roll. Stitch was a very emotion-driven headbanger. I'm trying to think. Gravity was such a single one-off. I think it was the success of Gravity that they made the freaking third album as soft as it was. I love Gravity to death. Gravity was such an amazing song, but it did too well, because obviously the third album was a lot of Cody singing, and I don't hate them. Cody and Britton are both phenomenal vocalists. I think if Gravity didn't do as well, I feel like Cody would have had a relatively similar place in the album that he did in Deadweight and probably Blueprints, because he had a really good role in both albums. I feel like it's in Pressure, the third album, he has a larger role than Britain. I feel like several of those songs are mainly Cody. Not that I'm hating, but definitely changing the form up a little bit kind of threw me off. I don't even think I listened to all the songs all the way through. Yeah. So, but Deadweight itself, great song. And Deadweight, it was a freaking amazing song. It was very emotion driven. Like, the whole thing was they were going through like a rough patch, I believe, and they had to get their emotions out. And such a strong song. And then what was the other one that was amazing too? It was now I'm thinking of the current album. There's one song that's right after Stitch, and I can't recall. Ooh, that's driving me insane. Well, if anyone knows the track list of Deadweight from Wage War, it's a song after Stitch. And I'm having a hard time gathering my thoughts. If anyone knows the third song off, or I think no, the third song is Stitch, and the fourth song is the one I'm talking about. But that song is powerful songs all together from this band or from this album. Next one is Motionless in White, and this was a hard choice because Motionless in White, they released great music, but picking the right album from this decade, because they released 5 albums. Creatures was in 09, I think, or 010. So, okay, so that's... We're going to say Creatures was in 010, and if they're in 010, then they're obviously in the decade, but they've released, I believe, 5 albums now, and I believe all 5 of those have been in this decade. So, I'm going to choose Reincarnate, as Disguise would have been my... If it wasn't Reincarnate, it was Disguise. Disguise was a very genre-mixed album with lots of different elements to their album, but it was done so well, and for that reason, I feel like it was such... Reincarnate is basically the same thing as Disguise in a nutshell. There's different flavors of music in the same album. I just think I chose Reincarnate is because it was heavier consistently. Not that I'm dissing on Disguise, because it was basically the same thing but a different style, lots of different genre mixes like I'm saying, but I just think as I love Disguise and all the songs that it has to offer, like Undead Ahead 2 is such a strong song, and then Thoughts and Prayers, come on now, Catharsis, come on now, bro. Another Life, like so many great songs from that album, yes, but Reincarnate, it's just, I can't even. It's just so heavy. Death March, that was an okay song. Reincarnate itself was great. The one that's about Dexter, which is... Wow, why am I blacking? Dark Passenger. Oh, that was my favorite song off the album. Another one... wow, I'm forgetting all these names. Pass the Torch, I think what the song was. Such a great songs, even though I'm choking on these names. I know the albums, I know them, I can hear it in my head, I just can't get them. I should have looked it up, but Reincarnate was probably a staple for their band, and it definitely was, because I feel like they made the most progression off that. And then after, they had not Internally Yours, that was off of Graveyard Shift, which is a continuation off that, and Disguise being the follow-up. But Reincarnate, man, it just has some powerful ass music, and that's why I'm choosing it. Next 2 are going to be from Dance Gavin Dance. I love Dance Gavin Dance, not Gance Gavin Gance. But I actually found them out in 2018, September of 2018, and I've been obsessed with them since September of 2018. It's obviously been over a year now, so I've only had a year with Dance Gavin Dance, but I'm telling you what, it's literally been a constant battle of what do I listen to. I'm actually forcing myself to stop listening to them and listening to heavier stuff right now, just because I want to give it a break. Because there's points where I don't want to listen to them, and I honestly kind of hate it because I feel kind of strange. I'm like, wow, this is kind of weird not listening to Dance Gavin Dance, and I do it and I love it, and they're such great band. But I'm gonna choose 2 albums because they've been really just smackers. I'm gonna do one with Tillian, and one with not Kurt, but Johnny. Kurt's because he only had 1 album. I'm pretty freaking sure he only had 1 album. That was Happiness. He wasn't a part of Dance Gavin Dance, the album. Pretty freaking sure. But I keep hearing things. But They're gonna do one with Tillian, one with Johnny. So the one with Tillian, I'm gonna go with Artificial Selection, as Mothership was my introduction to Dance Gavin Dance, and as I love that album for what it is, Artificial Selection, it just had so many different genre blends, and it's just the way it was done was so smooth. Like at first, I really wasn't a big fan of Artificial Selection. I thought the way they did it with the whole like single, every song was basically a single in a nutshell. I thought it was very off-putting, but they're so like they're done so well, and the instruments with Will being the god he is, he just puts so much flavor into all the work he puts into it. And Tillian's vocals, they're just kind of like they were more kind of classy. I describe them as when I describe it to my girlfriend, I'm like, it's classier. Like he's using a certain type of vocal. It's kind of like, it reminds me of someone that's like just being classy. I don't really know, because I feel like the one from his vocals from Mothership was very like rock and roll, like harder, harsher, which I love. That's why I love Mothership. His vocals in Mothership are so insane, but just the classiness, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it pulls it together. And then John screaming, he tears it up. Shelf Life is probably my favorite song off the album. I don't know what it is. It just, not even because it has Kurt in it. It just, Kurt's an amazing artist, but it wasn't because he has Kurt. It's just the song itself. If you haven't listened to Shelf Life, guys, listen to Shelf Life. It's an amazing song. But yeah, Shelf Life or Artificial Selection, because they just have so much. There's 14 songs of Artificial Selection, and there's so much energy on every song. It's insane. When it comes to Johnny's though, Downtown Battle Mountain 2, for sure. There's a whole lot of issues going on like at that time with the band, but I'm telling you what, there's nothing like the amount of soul and energy put into this album from Spooks. What was that? Spooks? I said it again. Spooks? Yeah, I gotta say it with voice. It was such a great opening to an album. It's this clean vocals, the catchiness of the choruses, Will and the instruments being so powerful. Songs like Blue Dream being one of my girlfriend's favorite songs. Songs like Purple Rain with the intense freaking Will Swan guitars. I believe he was writing all the guitar for that album, so I feel like I know I saw an interview where he was kind of just trying to show off, I think his words were. And he definitely did. So many great songs from that album. It's just like, it's such a staple. Like, I used to have a coworker that got me to Dance Gavin Dance, and he said his favorite album was Downtown Battle Mountain 2. And I was like, why? Like, have you not heard Tillian? And I do like Tillian more, and I'm not going to change my opinion on that. It's just that album, it hits different. It's something about it, it hits different. 100%. On to the next one. We have 3 more from this decade. This is Memphis Mayfire, The Hollow. This was not my first experience with that Memphis Mayfire. My first experience with them was actually Challenger, Losing Sight. And I basically listened to that. I went on to Unconditional, and then I backtracked to The Hollow. The Hollow was I believe I saw an interview where all the songs that he made, or they made, was actually like stories of people in Maddie's life that he was recreating. And then The Sinner is honestly one of my least favorite songs off the album. The Sinner's great. It's just overplayed. If they didn't overplay The Sinner, I'd probably still love it. But songs like The Haunted, my favorite. Oh my gosh. Deceived, the Deceived, The Victim, the Unfaithful, so great. Like the instruments, I don't know their names. All I know is Maddie's name. But just the vocals on Maddie are obviously so passionate, and he had a lot of different ranges. This is when he experimented with his lower range vocals and his higher range vocals. Later on in like throughout their albums, he sticks to more of like those mid ranges and goes a little bit into those like lower ranges. But in this album, he's not afraid to put it out there. That's just where they're at in their progression for their band. But such an amazing storytelling album, and it's just something an album I'm never gonna forget. I wish I could show it to more people, but I feel like I'm one of the only people that I know that actually like listens to this type of music. So it's kind of hard to express my passion for this album, because it's I went back to it recently, and I was just like, it was on repeat for 10 days. It was on like shuffle for 10 days. It was insane. Speaking about listening to albums, the next one, Vesta Collide, New Obsession. I kid you not, I've been going on with this album recently. It's been a strong passion for the last week. I'm sorry, I'm burping right now. What an amazing band that shut down really quick. They only had one album and now they're done. The lead vocalist Mark Fromm is actually with a new band called Spearmint right now. Definitely sucks because Vesta Collide, oh my gosh, something about them. The theatrical aspect, like they had like the first song off the album is called Witching Hour, and it gives you such a creepy vibe. And then Mark's vocals were definitely like he has a lot of experience, and he's only been on one band. Like there must have been a lot. Like he was doing his research, he was doing his homework. This man's been practicing for a long time. His lows are so deadly. They don't even sound like they're from him. It's insane. And he has like those mid ranges that sound like they're obviously mid ranges. Mid ranges are pretty easy to tell like who are mid. I feel like a lot of the times they're easy to like pick like the sound that sounds like Mark or like the vocalist you listen to. Like yeah, you can tell that's him. But like there's lows, it sounds like a freaking monster's behind them shits. Like it was insane. Songs like Hallucination, very catchy choruses. Songs like Monster Blood are very like type shits. The Lights is my favorite song off the album. There's so much emotion behind this album. Songs like Away From Here, very like teardropper. Like this, it was just such a very well produced song album with two songs being kind of like the one-offs. I guess you could say the outliers, very like kind of softer pace, but they still don't lose their roots. There's still aggressive vocals in the songs. Just, they kind of take a stay away, and they allow the side vocalist to do more of a bigger part of those songs. But such an amazing group that split up too early. So definitely check out New Obsession from Vesta Collide if you haven't. And that leaves us with one more album from this decade, 2010 to 2019, right? Because I don't think 20 counts. Yeah, right? Shit. This video would be a waste of time if this wasn't even the end of the decade. I'm pretty sure it's freaking... Alright, I'm gonna stop being stupid now. Bring Me the Horizon. That's the spirit. This album is really the album that got me into Bring Me the Horizon. I basically found all their songs, thought they were all very unique and had their rockiness with their poppiness. Like it was very nice. Like this is what got me into like the genre, because like it had a lot of, I was in the hip hop and like rap and pop and awful time. But those pop elements got me into the harder stuff, and I wanted to listen to more, and I was addicted to the aggressiveness and like those heavy riffs. And then it eventually brought me to their first album, not Pray for Play. Is that the same? On my other Bring Me the Horizon video, I had a hard time thinking this up too. But basically, I love the sound they had. I love the way they were mixing those, the different types of genre mixes, and they did it so well. And Ollie Skies being an amazing vocalist, it was so catching, and their live performances are so unique. Like they're honestly like, they have the biggest presence for me when it comes to live. So yeah, That's the Spirit was a crazy ass album, and Ammo was a follow up of that one, and it kind of had the same elements, but a lot more on the poppier side, which is okay. But yeah, guys, that has been 10 albums that are my favorite. These are my top 10 favorite albums of this decade. Now, there were more, but I wanted to keep it to 10 just because there could have been like 15 and 20. But wow, insane. All these albums have inspired me so much, and I've only listened to them to like a 2-year span of time, because I only got into I wasn't into like the harder stuff until 2018. Now it's 2019, end of 2019. I was into metal kinda at 15. 16 I was into like Memphis Mayfire and like Motionless in White. 17 was kind of like more Wage War, getting into like those harsher stuffs. And then summer of 2018 is when I discovered Tom and Chelsea Grin, and that's why I went back to Lorna Shore. If it wasn't for Lorna Shore and Tom, I wouldn't have really listened to deathcore at all. They're the reason I listened to deathcore. So, gotta keep it real for Tom. With that said, guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think are your favorite albums of this decade, and I'd love to hear your thoughts because there's a lot of music going around that I haven't heard of yet. That's why I'm doing this reaction channel, because there's so much music that I haven't even discovered, and you guys are helping me out find these great tunes every single week. So, with that being said, guys, whew, that was a long video. How long was that? 25 minutes. We're making this a Christmas special. Christmas special. So, with that being said, guys, we're going to get the hell out of here. And, yeah. Peace out.